Dale Pruitt was 34 years old and had been fired from his third warehouse job in 2 years for excessive calm during a forklift failure. He was sitting on his porch in Ohio, drinking gas station coffee, when the sky folded open like a shower curtain, and a chrome disc the size of a food truck parked itself on his lawn. A door hissed. A voice, translated through a device that made everything sound like a game show host, said, "Greetings, carbon-based entity. We require expendable labor for a hazardous extraction mission. Compensation is substantial. Survival is not guaranteed." Dale took a sip of his coffee. That the whole pitch? Essentially. Beats the warehouse. He stood up, dumped the coffee, and grabbed his jacket. "Let me just tell my landlord I'm going to be late on rent." Warning scene. The recruiter, a squat, iridescent being named Vorn Ektha Prime, official liaison of the Coalition Labor Exchange, Dale down in a sterile briefing pod and pulled up a hologram of a planet that looked, frankly, extremely unpleasant. "Human, I must formally advise you. The mission designation is Kel-Vashtu 7, fatality. Rate for contracted labor exceeds 94%. Those who return often do so incomplete. Incomplete like missing a tooth or incomplete like missing a torso?" The latter, historically. Dale nodded slowly, like he was being told about a traffic delay. "All right." Vorn's translator crackled with what might have been alarm. "You do not wish additional information? Counseling? A waiver review?" "Nah, I signed worse waivers to go bungee jumping in Cancun." Vorn stared, or did the equivalent, with his 3 eye clusters rotating independently. "Very well, human. Report to Bay 9 at dawn cycle." "And human—" The door hissed shut behind Dale. "Don't blame me if you come back in a box." Dale didn't hear the last part. He was already asleep. Squad introduction. Bay 9 looked like a recruitment poster for a war Dale hadn't been told about yet. First was Threx Olcadan, 7 feet of corded gray muscle with a second, smaller pair of arms folded across his chest like a bouncer's bouncer. His skin was covered in interlocking chitin plates that clicked faintly when he moved. He was, according to the mission dossier scrolling past on a tablet, a decorated veteran of the Vantray siege, the only survivor of an 11-person extraction squad on a moon made entirely of corrosive ash. He had killed something the size of a school bus with his bare upper hands. His file listed 40 confirmed void combat kills. Next was Silket, a slender being with luminous blue skin and 4 eyes stacked vertically, each one apparently able to see a different wavelength of light. She was a xenobiologist and combat medic who had personally identified and neutralized 11 previously unknown pathogens in the field, 3 of which she'd done while actively infected with them. Her file simply read, "Immune system exceptional. Bedside manner none." Third was Grath Voon, a floating jellyfish-like creature suspended in a mechanical exosuit that hummed with visible energy, tendrils coiling beneath him like living cables. He was an engineer-class specialist, credited with single-handedly rerouting a dying starship's core reactor through raw tendril contact, saving 412 lives. His species communicated partially through bioluminescent pulses, and right now he was pulsing what the translator rendered as cautious professional respect. Fourth, hovering slightly behind the others on a repulsor disc, was Command Officer Zaynash, a narrow, insectile being with mirrored compound eyes and a voice like wind through a reed. Decorated 3 times for tactical leadership under fire, survivor of 2 hull breaches, the kind of soldier other soldiers saluted without being told to. And then there was Dale. Dale, in a t-shirt that said "World's Okayest Fisherman," holding a gas station coffee refill he'd somehow smuggled onto an alien vessel. Zanish's mirrored eyes swiveled toward him. "This is the 4th specialist?" Vorn, standing nearby, cleared his throat. "Correct, human category, unskilled general labor." Threx looked Dale up and down the way you'd look at a sandwich that had fallen on the floor. "It appears an unremarkable." "Yeah," Dale said, cracking his knuckles. "That's kind of my whole deal." Nobody laughed. Nobody was joking. Comedy escalation loop. Loop 1 at gravity. "The planet's gravitational variance," Silket said, reviewing scan data, "fluctuates by a factor of 3 within any given hour. It can crush unprepared organic tissue like a dropped fruit." Dale shrugged. "So like riding the Tower of Terror at Disney World." Silket's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, which Dale would later learn was the alien equivalent of a full-body flinch. That is, a recreational activity? For $8 in a churro, yeah. Loop 2, atmosphere. The atmosphere contains particulate compounds that dissolve unshielded respiratory tissue within 90 seconds. Grathvoon pulsed. Huh, Dale said. Kinda like my uncle's garage when he's welding without the fan on. Threx's plates clicked in what might have been distress. And you have survived this? I mean, I got a cough for a week. Does that count? Loop 3, fauna. Native apex predators hunt in coordinated packs of 40 or more, using thermal imaging and pack tactics beyond most known species. Zaynash said. Dale nodded. So geese. Or geese. You ever been chased by Canadian geese at a public park? Coordinated, merciless, no negotiating with them. Silket made a note on her tablet. Dale would later see it. Subject compares extinction tier predator. Behavior to geese, unclear if joke. Loop 4, terrain. The surface is riddled with collapsing thermal vents that can swallow a landing craft whole, Grathvoon warned. Sounds like my grandma's backyard after it rains, Dale said. Sinkhole ate her garden gnome in 2003, never found Gerald. Gerald? The gnome. Loop 5, radiation. Background radiation is high, enough to cause cellular breakdown in most known species within the hour, Silket said, voice tighter now. Dale thought about it. Kinda like standing too close to the microwave waiting for a hot pocket. Threx set down the weapon he was cleaning. You do this? Regularly? Every night, buddy. Loop 6, silence. For the 6th warning, Zaynash didn't even phrase it as a fact. He just looked at Dale and said quietly, You understand you may die. Dale looked out the viewport at the approaching hellscape of a planet. Yeah, he said. So might my fantasy football team. Life's rough all over. Arrival and world reveal. Kel-Vashtu 7 looked like a nightmare that had given up on subtlety. The sky was the color of a healing bruise, streaked with lightning that struck sideways. The ground steamed where acid rain met scorched red stone. And somewhere in the distance, something the size of a cathedral let out a sound like grinding metal. The squad's boots hit the surface first, servos whining as their exosuits fought to compensate for gravity that kept lurching. Between crushing and weightless, Threx staggered, his armor plating groaning. Under strain, it was rated, but clearly hadn't expected. Silket's rebreather hissed warnings. Chemical filters already degrading in the corrosive air. Grathvoon's containment suit flickered, energy levels dropping in visible increments on his HUD. Dale stepped out in his jacket, coffee thermos in hand, and immediately sneezed. Man, he said, wiping his nose. Dry out here. Zaynash's mirrored eyes swiveled toward him, alarmed. Human, your suit readouts show no compensation engaged. Are your systems malfunctioning? Dale looked down at himself. He wasn't wearing a suit. He'd forgotten to put one on, actually, and nobody had checked. Because who checks the unskilled labor? I mean, Dale said, squinting at the bruise-colored sky. Feels like Ohio in February. A little windy, maybe. Threx's plates clattered against each other. The alien equivalent of a held breath. You are experiencing no gravitational distress. Should I be? Nobody answered him. They were all staring. Silket ran a scanner over Dale's vitals, frowning at each reading, tapping the device like it was broken. It wasn't broken. His heart rate was 68 beats per minute. Resting. This is, she started, and then didn't finish the sentence, because she didn't have a word for it yet. Episodic danger montage. Day 1, the vents. The squad's first assignment was crossing the ash fields, a stretch of terrain riddled with collapsing thermal vents. Protocol required full tether rigs, seismic sensors, and a 17-step traversal checklist that took Grathvoon 40 minutes to calibrate. Dale walked across it in his sneakers, humming to himself, occasionally stomping experimentally on a patch of ground. This spot's hollow, he said, pointing. Don't step there. Same deal as walking a frozen pond back home. You learn to hear the difference. Threx, tethered and sweating inside his suit, stared at the space Dale had just casually avoided without instruments. How did you determine that? Sounded different when I kicked it. He was right. It collapsed 4 minutes later, empty. Day 3, the swarm. The pack-hunting predators found them at dusk, and 40-plus coordinated beasts with heat-sensing skulls and teeth like broken glass. The squad went into full combat formation, Threx's weapon system screaming to life. Zainash barking tactical orders through the translator. Dale grabbed a metal ration case, banged it against a rock a few times, loud and rhythmic, then set it down and walked the other way. The pack scattered, shrieking, fleeing the noise. What did you do?" Zainash said. Weapon still raised at nothing. Made noise like 4th of July fireworks. Anything with ears hates that. Worked on the raccoons back home, too. Silket, watching 40 apex predators flee a man with a ration box. Wrote something in her log and underlined it twice. Log entry, Silket Field Medic, Day 3. The human calls this planet's most lethal predator pack basically raccoons. I do not know what a raccoon is. I am beginning to suspect I do not want to know. I am also beginning to suspect the human is either the most fortunate organism I have ever studied, or something else entirely. Recommend further observation. Recommend also that I stop trying to explain his methods using known science. Day 7, the storm. Electrical superstorms rolled in every 7th cycle, strong enough to fry unshielded circuitry and stop a heart mid-beat. The squad hunkered in a reinforced bunker. Suits on full lockdown Grathvoon, rerouting power through 3 redundant systems, just to keep the shelter's shielding online. Dale stood in the doorway watching lightning crawl sideways across the horizon, drinking the last of his coffee. "This is basically just a Midwest thunderstorm," he said. "Bad one, sure. But my dad used to keep grilling through worse. Man refused to let a little weather ruin a brisket." "You are standing," Threx said, voice flat with disbelief, "unshielded, in a Class 9 electromagnetic storm." "I'm standing under an overhang." "It's fine." It struck 4 feet from him. He didn't flinch. He finished his coffee. Day 10, the depths. The final approach required descending into a cave system riddled with pressure that could pulp unshielded flesh and a gas pocket volatile, enough to level a city block. The squad rigged full pressure suits, redundant oxygen, blast dampening gear. 3 hours of preparation for a descent expected to take 6. Dale climbed down in his jacket, found the gas pocket by smell, and rerouted around it without being asked. "Smells like the propane leak we had at my buddy's cabin one summer," he explained. "You don't panic, you don't spark anything. You just open a window and walk away slow. Same principle. Threx, fully suited, weapon primed, pressure rated to a degree that made his suit cost more than a starship. Watched the human casually stroll past a lethal gas pocket like it was a bad smell in an elevator. He said nothing. There was nothing left to say. Status flip. By day 12, nobody briefed Dale on the danger anymore. They just watched where he walked and walked there too. Zainash, filing the mission's official log, paused for a long moment before writing. Human specialist demonstrates no combat rating, no augmentation, no shielding. And yet, recommend reclassification from expendable labor to unknown variable, treat with caution and deference. Silket put it more simply, muttering to Grathvoon over a ration break, "He is not strong. He is not fast. He is not resistant to anything we understand." "Then what is he?" She watched Dale humming to himself, casually rerouting around a lava vent like it was a pothole, something we haven't measured yet. Cliffhanger close. They found the structure on day 14, buried beneath the ash fields. Ancient, humming with power no scanner could identify. Grathvoon's readouts spiked and died. Threx's weapon systems locked up entirely. Even Zainash's translator glitched, spitting static. Dale walked up to the massive black door embedded in the rock, tilted his head and knocked on it twice. Something deep inside knocked back. "Huh," Dale said, setting down his coffee thermos. "That's new." Behind him, 4 alien specialists, combined veterans of over 60 confirmed. Field missions went very, very quiet. The door began slowly to open,